And now joining us to break down these nuclear talks as well as what the U.S. position should be is Jonathan Schanzer from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Jonathan, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on. Can you explain what exactly is going on in the White House right now with Steve Witkoff? I mean, first he states the standard is what the JCPOA set forth under Obama. Now a somewhat murky reversal. What's going on here?
Well, I think, Emily, the long and short of it is that Stephen Witkoff is learning the file in real time. We're watching him climb the very steep learning curve of the Iranian nuclear file, and it is not an easy thing for someone to learn overnight. I don't believe there are any technical experts right now on his team. We know that Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, who's been following this file for decades, is not included in this team. And right now I think we're looking at an envoy office that is still maybe not as robust as maybe it could be. But the timing is the timing here, right? We've got a massive amount of American firepower in the region. That's the leverage that we have right now over the Iranians. They know that their air defenses are down. They know that there are two carrier strike groups off the coast of Iran as we speak. There are B-2 bombers in on the island of Diego Garcia. There are THAAD missile defense batteries supplied by the United States in Israel to make sure that there's defensive coverage in the event that Iran decides to go for a counterattack. So right now there's a lot of pressure on the Iranians. They know it, and Stephen Witkoff does not have the luxury of learning the file over the course of several weeks. Donald Trump is asking him to negotiate this now, and we're going to see some revisions along the way, and that is definitely spooking a lot of the critics right now in Washington and in Israel.
Let's hope that it's that he learns everything in time. Can you explain a little bit about what this 3.67% enrichment means? Why is it dangerous?
Well, anytime you're going to allow for enriching uranium on the part of the Iranians, what you're basically saying is that they're allowed to have a program. And that's what we need to stop, right? This is, and we've heard people talk about this, the Libya model. The Libya model is the gold standard as far as the U.S. and as far as the Israelis are concerned. That's, if you recall what happened back in 2003, the United States went in and invaded Iraq. Vanquished the army of Saddam Hussein, and this spooked Muammar Gaddafi, the former dictator of Libya, and he basically agreed to fully relinquish his nascent nuclear program. He gave up all of it. He said, I will not enrich. I won't engage in weaponization. I won't engage in anything. And that's exactly what I think the Israelis want. It's what the United States should be demanding. It's what Stephen Witkoff should have called for at first. I think the statement that he issued wasn't a full endorsement of that 3.67%, but it left the door open. And that's, I think, the mistake. You had people saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? I thought Donald Trump was opposed to the JCPOA, that 2015 very flawed nuclear deal. And I think as soon as Donald Trump heard that, at least this is my perception, he went back to Witkoff and said, wait a minute, that's not what I want. That's not what I endorse. We're going for zero enrichment here, and that explains the reversal of Stephen Witkoff in a very public way. Like I said, he's learning the file. He's revising some of his statements. At the end of the day, the guy does answer to Donald Trump, and I think that is, in the end, a good thing.
Now, President Trump has repeated verified nuclear deals several times. What are these verification methods that he has in mind? I mean, have we seen this before? How can Trump ensure that even after 4 years that the regime wouldn't make a bomb?
Look, what you want verification of the destruction of these facilities, Natanz, Fordo, etc. You need to see inspectors coming in. So that's the International Atomic Energy Association, the IAEA. Maybe you have U.S. weapons inspectors. But this, I mean, look, the thing that kills me about all of these nuclear talks, and we've seen this over time, and I've talked to some of the Israeli negotiators over the years, some of the American negotiators over the years, it gets too complicated, right? You've got sunset clauses and you've got snapback sanctions and all these technical things that we have created. They're far more complicated than they need to be. Either Iran destroys its nuclear program and agrees to never do it again, or we have a problem. The political window for all this negotiation here in the United States, this is while it's open here. So what we need to put the knife to the throat of the Iranians, make them understand that they have one choice if they want their regime to survive, and then we get to call the shots in terms of how all of this is monitored. That's the way this should work when you have the leverage that right now the United States has, thanks in large part to what the Israelis did in the skies over Iran last fall.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but let's hope that the U.S. administration gets their ducks in a row when it comes to dealing with the Islamic Republic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jonathan Schanzer from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.
Pleasure.